We finally got more information about that super shady subpoena, and Ron is back to discuss.
Blake Lively is throwing full-blown tantrums after Justin Baldoni finally exposed the shady truth behind her fake text message scandal. From fake subpoenas to media manipulation, she tried it all.
This lawsuit against these unnamed individuals were dropped or just disappeared.
The New York Times played puppet, and now the witch is spiraling, cursing everyone as her courtroom fairy tale crumbles fast.
But now we're seeing Blake actually do it with these sort of shady tactics.
Let's go back to September 27, 2024. Something fishy gets filed in a New York court. Something called Vans and Inc. versus John Doe's 1-10. Sounds like a sequel to Gone Girl, right?
Well, we finally now have learned what this so-called case was that everyone's wondering, where did this come from? It was from a case from Van Zandt Inc. versus John Doe's 1-10.
Except instead of a missing wife, it's a missing target, literally. No names, no people, just John Does. This lawsuit had no face, no form, and no point, except for one sneaky little detail. It gave Blake's team subpoena power. That's right. It wasn't about winning a case, it was about getting dirt.
And more people did their due diligence to figure out, well, who's this Van Zandt? As we sort of learned out that was a company of Blake Lively's.
And guess who's behind this Vans and mess? None other than Blake Reynolds. Oh, sorry, Blake Lively. But that's her legal married name now, and in this twisted courtroom cosplay, she's not just the plaintiff, she's the CEO, secretary, and CFO of Vans and Inc. Like, girl, why not throw in head of snacks while you're at it? This wasn't a business, it was a one-woman scam factory.
It was owned by Blake Reynolds, her married name, as the chief CEO, secretary, financial officer, etc. So it has now been confirmed that yes, this Van Zandt versus the John Doe's is clearly a Blake Lively lawsuit, but clearly was filed without anybody's actual name.
Even juicier, public records tie Ryan Reynolds, yes, Deadpool himself, to this ghost company too. His home address just happens to match the address listed for Vans and Inc. Because why not bring your husband along for the legal joyride? This isn't just shady, it's full-on Twilight Zone with a tax ID number.
Any lawyer will tell you, you do not file a complaint if you don't know the name of the person that you are suing, unless you're trying to protect that person's identity for some reason, which if you're pissed off enough to sue them, you probably don't care about their identity.
Now here's where it gets downright cinematic. On December 20th, 2020, just one day after this Vans and Clown case is mysteriously dropped, Blake slaps the world with her big official CRD complaint. So what was the point of Vans and then? Oh, just a fake-out move to snatch some confidential data, throw a grenade into Justin Baldoni's reputation, and vanish into the night like it never existed. If this were chess, Blake's playing dirty and flipping the board mid-game.
Well, so it's interesting because now I have questions, because as we have both Brian Friedman and Lively's lawyers have sort of commented on this, Brian Friedman told the Daily Mail, this appears to be an end around, skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice.
Now let's talk about Vans and Inc. itself. Because if you think it's just a suspicious lawsuit, buckle up. This company had been inactive for 11 years. 11. Not a peep, not a product, not a purpose, until it suddenly comes crawling out of the legal graveyard to play attack dog for Blake's revenge campaign. You don't need to be a lawyer to know this reeks.
So apparently this company has been inactive for 11 years and Blake Reynolds is the CEO. When I saw this, I was like, how can we connect Vans and Inc. to Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively? How do we know that they're the owners of this company?
And the lawsuit? A masterpiece of vagueness. It accused a bunch of nameless, faceless, who even are they people of violating all sorts of corporate loyalty laws, but didn't bother to mention what they did, when they did it, or who they even were. It was like suing the air. The only thing more empty than this lawsuit was Blake's credibility.
Of Ryan Reynolds on public records is the same address as Vans and Inc. In the court documents. Also, these court documents are filed by the same lawyers and the company that represents Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in their lawsuit against Justin Baldoni.
Let's be real, this wasn't about legal justice. This was a side door break-in dressed in courtroom drag. The entire point was to issue a subpoena to one very specific person, Stephanie Jones. If that name rings a bell, it's because she used to be Justin Baldoni's PR rep. And surprise, surprise, she's now the center of this subpoena circus.
Oh, everything is public information. And the thing is, there's no other explanation for how Stephanie Jones could be subpoenaed. So someone here is saying that this is called a straw lawsuit, and it's common in celebrity lawsuits and ironically smear campaigns.
Now Stephanie Jones. Oh, this one deserves a spin-off. So she worked with Baldoni until August 2024. Then out of nowhere, in October 2020, she suddenly receives a subpoena and bam, starts handing over messages, emails, dirt like Halloween candy. No questions, no objections. Just here you go. Enjoy destroying my former client. What a team player, huh?
If Stephanie Jones knew this and was not involved in any of this, she would have fought it and notified Wayfair.
Even better, only one phone was subpoenaed. Just one. Belonging to a woman named Jennifer Ale. Apparently the rest of the PR firm was invisible or immune, because nobody else was touched. You'd think if you were looking for evidence, you'd want a wider net. But nope, they went full sniper mode. That's not a legal process, that's a hit job.
And the thing is, as I said before, why didn't they subpoena more people in Stephanie Jones' company? There was more people involved with Justin Baldoni. I mean, Stephanie Jones was also working with him.
And here's the kicker. Stephanie Jones is married to Jason Huides. Who's that? Oh, just a senior partner at WME, the talent agency repping, you guessed it, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. We're not even hiding conflicts of interest anymore. We're just passing burner phones across the dinner table at this point. And let's not act like this woman didn't know exactly what she was doing. You don't wake up one day and think, you know what'd be fun? Violating NDAs and launching a legal torpedo for my client's enemies?
So there's a lot of really sketchy stuff going on here.
Some insiders even speculate that Jones had a whole agenda. Maybe she was pissed that Baldoni left the company. Maybe she wanted to take down Jennifer Ale. Maybe she just wanted to impress the Hollywood elites at WME. Either way, the theory is that she had access to sensitive materials, and instead of hitting delete, she whispered, "Hey Blake, want to ruin some careers?"
Trying to get the cell phone records from Jennifer Abel, they said they got a subpoena, which also allowed the New York Times to do this as well.
And Blake? She didn't hesitate. The moment she knew there were messages, she allegedly weaponized her dormant zombie company to file a pretend lawsuit, grab a subpoena, and get everything hand-delivered like Uber Eats for lawsuits.
This is not over in any sense of the word. I think there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of questions asked by the Manat folks who signed this.
And let's not pretend this was accidental. The lawsuit was dropped the day before Blake officially filed her CRD complaint. Like, hello? What a coincidence. She used Vans and Inc. to legally fish for dirt, got what she wanted, and then canceled it like a dinner reservation. This is what we're calling influential now?
Vansan Inc., an active, possibly inactive company, is used as a front and has no active relationship with anyone in this scenario, is used to harass and intimidate third parties for discovery.
Oh, and legal experts? Yeah, they're not buying it either. They've straight up called this a straw lawsuit. A lawsuit filed with zero intention of winning, purely to manipulate the Anne Blake? Oh, she's out here on red carpets acting like she's the next humanitarian saint. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, she's got more secrets than a burner phone at a mob trial. This isn't just messy. It's surgical, cold, corporate, and yeah, it's gonna blow up in her face.
I believe in self-help in the current lawsuit that is in the New York District Court.
You know what's hilarious? Blake Lively's legal team really thought they could reinvent the entire judicial system like it was a Pinterest board. Let's sue. Nobody, they said. Let's write Nothing specific. Let's just vibe a lawsuit into existence. Because apparently, in Blake's world, you can file a lawsuit without knowing who you're even suing. No names, no faces, no facts, just pure fobs and legal stationery.
And it's frustrating, right? Because the date, just 4 days after the filing, they issued the subpoena to Stephanie Jones, who willingly did it because Stephanie Jones had an axe to grind with everybody else.
This was the Vans and Inc. strategy in a nutshell. A lawsuit so vague, so hollow, and so laughably non-existent in substance that even Judge Judy would have thrown it out before her first coffee. There were no hearings, no defendants, no narrative, just a phantom case that got filed, served its shady little purpose, and vanished like Blake's accountability. And that shady little purpose? Subpoenas, bro.
Anything they can do to use their power to shut up and intimidate and get control of Justin Baldoni. It sure looks like that's what Blake's been doing.
Yep, this wasn't about justice. It was about access. Access to emails, texts, private communications, anything they could weaponize. Vans and Inc. didn't want to win in court. They just wanted the keys to Baldoni's world. And to get them, they pulled the oldest trick in the dirty book. Pretend you're legit, grab a subpoena, run before anyone notices. And the gag is, they did it all to dance around something as basic as a non-disclosure agreement. Stephanie Jones, you know, the PR Benedict Arnold in this saga, had an NDA with Baldoni. She wasn't supposed to hand over confidential texts, but Blake's team thought, let's just give her a subpoena from our fake lawsuit so she has to give it to us. Boom, loophole. Not ethical, not smart, just shady and obvious.
So lately there's been a lot of talk about Stephanie Jones, the publicist behind Jones' work, the one that gave out all the information from her co-worker's phone, and all those text messages and emails ended up, as we know, in the New York Times.
And let me tell you the most insulting part of all this. Justin Baldoni was never even notified. Not a letter, not an email, not even a courtesy. Hey, we're stealing your private communications, XO Blake. That's illegal, by the way. You can't subpoena someone's info and forget to tell them. That's not lawyering, that's legal pickpocketing. Civil code requires you to notify the consumer being affected, and they just said, nah, we'll skip that part.
Third parties for discovery fish for information that's off limit or out of scope, damage reputations, and it's extremely unethical.
And if you think the New York Times would have touched this nonsense had they known how it was gathered, you're dreaming. They cited that subpoena in their article, not realizing they might have been roped into a media puppet show directed by Lively's team. If you use illegally obtained materials to shape public narrative, congrats. That's not journalism anymore. That's just gossip with a lawyer's business card stapled to it.
So everyone's been speculating how was there a subpoena there if there was no legal implications at that point?
So what did Blake do next with her stolen goods? Oh, just handed them off to her favorite press outlet and sat back while Justin's name got dragged harder than a fake Lewis bag at LAX. The NY Times article landed like a nuke, right after the subpoenaed info was acquired. No time wasted. The smear campaign was locked, loaded, and pre-scheduled.
They make third parties believe they're forced to comply when in reality, they don't have to and can fight it in court.
And here's the part that makes this a masterclass in defamation by design. Blake's team didn't just leak raw info, they handpicked, curated, and strategically sliced it to paint Baldoni like the devil in a cardigan. Context? Gone. Explanations? Deleted. Balanced portrayal? Please. They turned texts into weapons and the media into delivery boys.
Secretly put this whole thing out to defame and go after Justin.
Now, if the Times didn't get the full story, and many legal analysts believe they didn't, then Blake's team basically fed them a script, left out all the disclaimers, and let them run wild. And the Times, unknowingly or not, played the role perfectly. Because within 3 months, yes, 3 months, we went from fake lawsuit to suspicious subpoena to public takedown. It wasn't sloppy, it was engineered. And that's what makes this so dangerous.
This is just like, it's so shady to me that they could do something like this. That's why I was like, I can't believe this. This is just too suspicious. This is just too crazy to me.
Because let's be honest, this wasn't about truth. It was about control. Blake's team needed a narrative to support her December 2024 CRD complaint. And instead of facts, they used filtered messages, timed media hits, and legal loopholes to carpet bomb Baldoni's reputation before he could even blink. Call it what it is, coordinated defamation, not legal advocacy.
Put this whole thing out to defame and go after Justin without ever letting him have a chance, or his legal team to have a chance to do anything or respond, to me does seem incredibly unethical. And I guess that's my question.
Now, here's where karma starts warming up her slap hand. Legal experts are circling this case like hawks. Because when you use a sham lawsuit to issue subpoenas and manipulate court documents, you're not just playing dirty, you're playing with your law license. This isn't an oops, this is abuse of process. And Blake's team might be staring down the barrel of state bar investigations.
Untraceable, crazy, weird things that you didn't want to get caught doing to basically skirt around the law, which to me it's like, oh, and I'm not even accusing Justin of doing that. There is a text obviously that says, you know, these things, but the text doesn't mean they did it.
The rule is simple. You do not file fake lawsuits just to trick people into handing over private stuff. It's like robbing a house and then showing the judge a toy badge. You can't just dress up fraud in court papers and call it justice. This is textbook misconduct, and if proven, it could get her legal team disqualified from the entire case. And don't think her lawyers don't know it. That's why Brian Friedman, Baldoni's pitbull attorney, came out swinging with one of the most scathing quotes yet. This appears to be an end around skirting the process. Translation: you cheated, you broke the system, and now you're gonna get checked.
So if Brian Friedman digs into this, which I think for sure he will do if he doesn't already know about this, that could be really harmful for Blake Lively's lawsuit.
What happens next? If the judge agrees this was a straw lawsuit designed to dig up dirt, Blake's entire pile of so-called evidence could get thrown out like last season's influencer merch. Without that subpoenaed content, her CRD complaint starts looking like a sad, desperate PR stunt dressed as a civil rights cause. Worse, she could face civil sanctions, as in money, penalties, embarrassment, the whole deal.
Brian Friedman told the Daily Mail, this appears to be an end around, skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice. That would be an abusive process, and we intend to take all action allowable under the law, as you're saying, echoing what you're saying.
And don't forget about her legal team, especially the law firm Manat, who handled all this behind the scenes. If they're found complicit in knowingly filing a fake case, they could be booted from representing her altogether. Imagine going from representing Hollywood royalty to getting bar complaints filed against you because you couldn't say no to Blake's latest scheme. Worth it?
So, I mean, look, and that's where I'm at. Like, why would they do this? They clearly knew this could come. They clearly knew by saying there's a subpoena, someone eventually could find that said subpoena. They had to know this could be uncovered. If this is such a mistake and impossible and not appropriate and going to get them in trouble, why would they have done it?
But let's face it, none of this is shocking anymore. Blake's entire legal approach is like one of those Pinterest cakes that looks amazing on the outside and collapses when you cut into it. Hollow, sticky, over-decorated. Her team has been playing legal twister in heels, hoping no one notices the rules don't apply to them.
Blake's side keeps saying, well, don't forget, they were going to bury everyone. It's like, to me, the more we learn from Blake, I'm like, you're doing the same thing. You're doing all these weird, untraceable, crazy, weird things that.
If this thing unravels in court, it won't just be a technical loss, it'll be a reputational bloodbath. No one's going to remember the scripted headlines or the fake subpoenas. They're going to remember that Blake Lively tried to turn a courtroom into a soundstage and got caught holding the boom mic.
Well, it's odd because it seems to be the same thing they're accusing Justin of doing, which is shady tactics, untraceable tactics.
And all of this was avoidable. If Blake had an actual case, she wouldn't need a fake company, a rogue subpoena, or a rushed media leak. She'd just sue like a normal person. But instead, She played every dirty card in the deck. And guess what? The deck's rigged, and she still might lose. Blake, you almost pulled it off. Almost. But the thing about lies is, they come with receipts. Or in this case, timestamps, court filings, and subpoena dates that scream, I planned this like a Netflix original. Because when you line up the key dates, it stops looking like a case and starts looking like a heist gone wrong.
That's my question. Legally, is Friedman and Justin going to be able to use all of that shenanigans to prove the point of this is absolute defamation? This was absolutely a coordinator attack at my entire career and identity.
Let's start at the beginning of this little legal circus, August 2024. That's when Stephanie Jones officially left Justin Baldoni's team. She packed up her PR loyalty, walked out the door, and allegedly walked straight into Blake Lively's legal war room. Because just 1 month later, on September 27, 2024, the infamous Vanzen Inc. lawsuit was filed. And this wasn't just any lawsuit. This was the ghost case, the fake out, the lawsuit without a face, a name, or a purpose, other than to serve as a legal smokescreen.
As most celebrities require the people that work for them or
because she not to interrupt, but yeah, because she was his PR person for a time. Correct, yes.
If she were to voluntarily give internal communications between Stephanie Jones and Baldoni to a third party, regardless of the purpose of whether being asked for.
Then, because Blake and her legal brain trust just couldn't wait to weaponize their new toy, a subpoena was issued in October 2024. And who did they target? Not Baldoni, not Blake's own camp. No, they zeroed in on Jennifer Ailes' phone through Stephanie Jones. Just one person, one phone, one PR-flavored grenade launched directly into Justin's private communications.
As you know, Stephanie Jones also represented Justin Baldoni until August. And lately we've seen that Stephanie Jones claims that she was subpoenaed to give out all this information in October 2024.
That's when the Vanzen lawsuit quietly vanished. Just dropped like yesterday's headlines. No trial, no hearing, just gone. Why? Because it already served its dirty purpose. They got the data, they mined the dirt, and now, like any good Hollywood prop, they tossed it aside when the scene was over.
How come there was a subpoena when there was no lawsuit at the point? Remember, Blake Lively didn't file that CDR until 20th of December, and the New York Times article was published shortly after. The New York Times article that ruined Justin Baldoni's reputation, and mine for that matter.
And then, like clockwork, on December 20th, Blake files her big dramatic CRD complaint. Because apparently, the legal equivalent of a table flip needs the right lighting. The subpoena had already done the damage, and the real case was now ready to be unveiled like some self-righteous Broadway production. But the cherry on this corrupted timeline Sunday? The New York Times publishes the leaked messages. Just days after the complaint. That's not reporting. That's a preloaded PR bomb, dropped right on schedule.
And Stephanie Jones has lately come out to the press and said that there was a subpoena there. She hasn't published the subpoena in any outlets, but I know that Daily Mail, I think, and Variety say that they have seen the subpoena.
All of this happened in under 4 months. 4 months to set up a fake company, file a lawsuit, issue a shady subpoena, erase the lawsuit, launch the official complaint, and drop a reputation-destroying NYT piece. 4 months. You think that's coincidence? That's not even a little bit subtle. That's a military-grade legal ambush, disguised as a civil rights complaint. And what's Blake doing through all this? Exactly what you'd expect from someone whose entire brand is built on curated red carpet smiles and Pinterest-perfect fake activism. Absolute silence. Not a peep from her. Not one comment. Not even a, my team is looking into this. Because why own up when you can just keep hiding behind lawyers, agents, and NDAs? And Ryan Reynolds? Captain Witty himself? He's out here cracking jokes about aviation gin while his name is literally listed in court records tied to Vanzen Inc. Public filings show his home address matches the one used by the fake company. But sure, let's pretend Deadpool had nothing to do with this script. This dude is standing in the middle of the smoke and still pretending he's never seen fire. Blake's team calls their shady tactics common, mocks Baldoni's outrage, and hides behind silence like it's strategy. But that silence? It's desperation. The paperwork stall won't last. Blake's facing a 7-hour deposition, and Vanzen Inc. will be front and center. Judges want facts, not red carpets. TikTok Blake. And her team? They'll try every trick in the book. They're already expected to file protective orders to seal her testimony, keep it out of public view, because God forbid the public actually hears how she manipulated a lawsuit to serve her personal vendetta. But legal insiders say, once her deposition hits that courtroom, it's fair game. Blake Lively's courtroom performance might not be optional, and this time, there's no stylist, no PR manager, and no golden lighting filter to save her.
And the court documents are public. There's a link here that you can see the court document that was filed as well. So everything is public information.
And then there's motions in limine. That's the part where each side asks the judge to block certain evidence from being shown to the jury. But here's the fun part. Blake's subpoena tactics led directly to the evidence her team submitted. So now, not only do they risk losing that evidence entirely, but they might also get dragged for how they obtained it. The irony is almost poetic. Meanwhile, Brian Friedman is out here playing 4D chess. This man is expected to stitch together the entire mess. Vanzen Inc., the subpoena games, the NYT leak, the CRD complaint, and lay it all out like a jigsaw puzzle from hell. And if the court agrees that this whole thing was a retaliatory setup, the consequences are going to be brutal.
Friedman said he had no knowledge about the lawsuit until Daily Mail contacted him. Now, Lively's lawyers said the newly uncovered lawsuit was common and entirely appropriate and accused Friedman of faux outrage.
Because here's the thing. If Blake's legal strategy is exposed as deceitful, she doesn't just lose, she gets publicly wrecked, evidence gone, lawsuit possibly dismissed, and her already fracturing image completely scorched. No more curated posts about healing energy and strong women. This is real court, and real court doesn't care how many Vogue spreads you've done.
I don't know, maybe she told her husband like, oh, I want revenge on Jennifer Abel and I hate Justin Baldoni.
This isn't just a legal battle anymore, it's a credibility war. And Blake, who's spent her whole career polishing an image that screams perfection, is about to walk into a courtroom with that image shattered into headlines. The meltdown isn't coming, it's already happening. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a moment of the drama. Catch you in the next one.